The Galactic Empire had ruled the galaxy for centuries, its vast fleets controlling countless star systems and its citizens living in comfort and security. Everywhere the Empire reached, planets followed without question, their populations loyal and obedient. The Empire's power seemed unshakable, and its leaders believed nothing could threaten their dominion. In the high command centers aboard the massive capital ships, generals and admirals discussed border skirmishes and minor rebellions, dismissing them as trivial annoyances. They often spoke of these incidents with boredom, confident that the Empire's overwhelming military strength could crush any opposition within hours. In distant sectors, patrol fleets moved in disciplined formations, their sensors scanning for threats, yet nothing significant appeared. The Empire's fleets were a show of power, and every citizen believed that their leaders were untouchable. Peace reigned across most regions, and the galaxy seemed to rest in the Empire's hands. Despite this calm, whispers of an ancient human civilization lingered at the edges of imperial knowledge. Some historians and scientists spoke quietly of forgotten technology left behind by humans long ago, but their warnings were treated as myths or irrelevant stories from a bygone era. The Empire had long considered humanity extinct or insignificant, believing that any remnants could not pose a threat to their immense power. Yet deep in the unexplored regions of space, humans had survived, hidden and unnoticed, quietly developing their technology and strength. The Empire's ignorance of this growing power would soon become their greatest weakness. But for now, they remained blissfully unaware. Within the capital city of the Empire's homeworld, officials attended grand ceremonies celebrating their victories and the stability of their rule. Citizens cheered from the streets below as massive banners flew, depicting the Empire's emblem. The leaders appeared confident and unchallenged, giving speeches about progress, security, and the glory of their civilization. There was an air of invincibility, as if nothing in the universe could disturb their peace. Even the Empire's scholars, who had studied the stars for decades, rarely mentioned the possibility of an unknown civilization returning, dismissing such thoughts as mere fantasy. The population lived comfortably, consuming entertainment, news, and cultural displays that reinforced the idea that the Empire was eternal. Every child grew up learning stories of their civilization's greatness, every adult proud to be a part of this unstoppable force. On the frontier planets, local governors reported minor incidents of pirate activity or rogue colonies, but these were quickly managed by regional fleets. These small issues never reached the level of concern in the central command, and life continued as usual for the majority of citizens. Traders moved freely along the established routes between star systems, transporting goods and resources, while military patrols ensured the safety of these lines. The Empire's dominance seemed absolute, its borders secure, and no one dared to question its authority. The complacency of the Empire's leadership created an illusion of total control, masking the silent threat that was gathering beyond the known regions. Amidst this peace, the Empire's commanders focused on maintaining their current power rather than preparing for the unexpected. Their training exercises and fleet maneuvers were routine, designed to maintain order rather than innovate or anticipate a new enemy. Discussions in the war rooms often involved strategy against each other rather than any external force. The Empire had grown arrogant, believing that no civilization could ever challenge its supremacy. Meanwhile, the forgotten human colonies, hidden in the farthest corners of space, were quietly thriving, their scientists perfecting technologies that could rival the Empire's most advanced warships. Their existence was an unspoken secret, a shadow waiting for the right moment to emerge. The calm before the storm was absolute. The Empire enjoyed every luxury of power and control, blind to the approaching threat. Every fleet, every general, every citizen believed that the universe would continue under their command. And yet, the seeds of upheaval were already in motion, unnoticed, silent, but unstoppable. The galaxy's balance was about to change forever. And the Empire's centuries of unquestioned rule were on the brink of a challenge they could never have imagined. Far beyond the Empire's known borders, hidden among dense asteroid fields and uncharted star systems, humanity had built a secret base. Its location was carefully chosen to remain invisible to the Empire's powerful sensors, shielded by natural cosmic formations and cloaking technologies. Inside this massive installation, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, assembling the largest and most advanced warship humanity had ever created. The Dreadnought was not just a ship, it was a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. Its hull reinforced with materials that could withstand the Empire's most powerful weapons. Its engines were designed for both speed and stealth, capable of sudden jumps across light years, leaving no trace for any pursuer. The ship's design was a blend of the latest human technology and rediscovered ancient knowledge, passed down through generations in secret. Its weapons were adaptive, able to recalibrate in real time to counter any attack, and its defensive shields were powered by a new form of energy the Empire had never encountered. The command deck buzzed with activity as human officers monitored simulations, ran tests, and prepared for the first mission. Every system was checked and double-checked, ensuring that when the Dreadnought finally emerged, it would be unstoppable. The human leaders understood the stakes. One wrong move could reveal their presence too early or give the Empire time to prepare. Every detail mattered, from navigation to weapon targeting to stealth protocols. The human crew, trained in isolation and secrecy, moved with precision and discipline. Their loyalty to humanity and belief in the mission gave them focus and determination. Unlike the Empire, which relied on overwhelming force and intimidation, the humans had perfected strategy, agility, and innovation. Their strength lay not in numbers, but in superior planning, technological superiority, and the element of surprise. The Dreadnought's AI systems were integrated with human command, creating a bond between machine and crew that allowed instantaneous decision-making. Faster than any human could react, the AI could analyze threats, propose solutions, and execute maneuvers with flawless accuracy. For decades, humanity had observed the Empire from afar, studying its fleet patterns, patrol routes, and response strategies. The humans learned the Empire's weaknesses, how it relied on predictable tactics and overconfidence. The Dreadnought was designed specifically to exploit these vulnerabilities. Every weapon placement, shield configuration, and flight pattern had been tested in simulations thousands of times. The crew knew the Empire would be shocked when they finally revealed their presence, but they were prepared for that reaction, prepared to act with speed, precision, and ruthlessness if needed. The Dreadnought itself was a marvel of engineering, its dark hull glinting faintly against the void of space, its surface covered with energy-absorbing materials that made it almost invisible on sensors. The ship carried multiple strike craft, drones, and auxiliary vessels, all designed to extend its reach and capabilities. Its main cannon could destroy capital ships in a single salvo, while smaller weapons systems could neutralize entire squadrons with minimal effort. Defensive systems anticipated attack vectors from any angle, creating a near-perfect shield against interception. Humanity's leaders communicated in secret, sharing strategic updates and simulations. Their confidence was growing with every test. Every trial confirmed that the Dreadnought could survive the Empire's strongest attacks and strike back with overwhelming force. Unlike the Empire, humanity did not seek domination for glory. Their mission was precise, calculated, and necessary. To reclaim their place in the galaxy, they had to show the Empire that humanity was no longer weak, no longer a forgotten species. Their emergence had to be both a warning and a demonstration of power. The first activation of the Dreadnought was a moment of silent triumph, its systems coming online one by one. Lights glowed across the hull, sensors hummed, and the engines pulsed with latent energy. The crew stood ready, aware that the moment they exited the hidden system, they would step into history. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for centuries, but it had never faced anything like this. The humans had waited patiently, hidden in the shadows, preparing for the moment when they could shift the balance of power forever. The Dreadnought's first jump into known space would be more than an appearance. It would be a statement, sudden and impossible to ignore. Every detail, every preparation, every test had led to this moment. The humans were no longer observers. They were actors ready to change the course of galactic history. The Dreadnought, silent and deadly, waited in the darkness, poised to emerge and remind the galaxy that humanity had not disappeared. It had survived, it had grown, and now it was ready to reclaim its place among the stars. The Empire, confident in its dominance, would soon discover that the calm it had enjoyed for centuries was about to end. A routine patrol fleet of the Galactic Empire moved through a remote sector of space, their sensors scanning the void for any signs of activity. The officers aboard the lead ship monitored the readings with casual attention, confident that this region was empty and unimportant. The fleet consisted of dozens of ships, all well-armed and heavily shielded, representing the Empire's unquestioned strength in these outer reaches. Communications hummed quietly, and the crew went through their standard protocols, unaware that a presence far greater than anything they had encountered was already nearby. Suddenly, the sensors flickered and displayed an anomaly. But before the officers could react, the massive shadow of the human Dreadnought appeared on their screens. Its size alone was enough to cause unease, a dark silhouette that dwarfed even the largest Imperial battleships. The Dreadnought's appearance was sudden and unexpected. Catching the patrol completely off guard, no alarms or signals had announced its arrival, and the fleet had no idea what they were facing. The human vessel moved with eerie precision, its sensors and weapon systems active, analyzing the Imperial ships instantly. Within seconds, the Dreadnought fired its first strike, targeting the formation with pinpoint accuracy. Energy beams lanced through space, cutting through the Imperial shields and striking ships with devastating effect. Entire vessels were destroyed almost instantly, exploding into fragments that drifted silently through the void. The officers struggled to comprehend what was happening, their training and experience offering no guidance for a threat of this magnitude. Panic swept across the fleet as more ships were disabled. The Imperial officers tried to organize a counterattack, but the Dreadnought anticipated every move, maneuvering effortlessly and staying just out of range of return fire. Its weapons recalibrated in real time, adapting to the patterns of the Imperial fleet. The humans had designed their ship for situations exactly like this, exploiting the weaknesses of the Empire's overconfidence and rigid tactics. Within minutes, the patrol fleet that had entered the sector with full authority was reduced to nothing more than wreckage scattered across space. The surviving officers struggled to send distress signals back to the Empire, but even those were intercepted or destroyed before they could reach their destination. News of the disaster reached Imperial command centers like wildfire. Alarms blared across multiple systems. Generals and admirals pored over sensor data. Trying to make sense of the reports, nobody could believe that a single vessel had annihilated an entire fleet. The Empire's previous assumptions about humans crumbled instantly. Whispers of myths and forgotten legends began to resurface, as the leaders realized that humanity was not only alive, but had returned with overwhelming power. Fear replaced confidence in the hearts of those who had always believed in the Empire's invincibility. Emergency meetings were convened in the High Command, where advisors debated what could possibly confront them with such effectiveness. The Dreadnought had not only destroyed ships, it had shattered the Empire's sense of security. The generals faced the reality that their numerical superiority meant little against a technologically advanced and strategically superior opponent. Every detail of the patrol fleet's destruction was scrutinized, and theories about the Dreadnought's capabilities spread through the corridors. Some speculated it was powered by ancient human technology long thought lost, while others believed it to be a new weapon beyond anything the Empire could imagine. As the Dreadnought moved away from the destroyed patrol fleet, it left a clear message behind. Humanity had returned, and the Empire's era of unquestioned dominance was ending. The surviving scouts and observers sent back frantic warnings, painting a terrifying picture of human strength and precision. Within hours, the Empire's leadership was consumed by disbelief and growing panic. The calm and confident control that had defined their rule for centuries was replaced by uncertainty and fear. They had never encountered an enemy that could strike so decisively and vanish with such ease. The Dreadnought's sudden appearance and unstoppable attack had shattered not only their fleets, but also the Empire's pride. The first contact with humanity became a legend almost immediately, discussed in hushed tones across the Empire's networks. The Dreadnought was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol of the unknown, a force that had arrived from the shadows to challenge everything the Empire believed about its strength, Citizens and officers alike struggled to grasp the enormity of the threat. Some refused to believe it, clinging to the illusion of Empire's invincibility. Others began to fear that the galaxy they knew was about to change forever. The Dreadnought had appeared, struck decisively, and disappeared, leaving shock and confusion in its wake, and humanity had announced itself as a power the Empire could not ignore. The Empire's leaders could no longer ignore the threat. They scrambled their most powerful fleets, confident that sheer numbers and overwhelming firepower would crush any human vessel. Warships of every size and class were mobilized, moving in precise formations toward the sector where the Dreadnought had been seen. Admirals issued orders with urgency, expecting that experience and technology would ensure victory. Yet even as they deployed their forces, a subtle unease spread through the ranks. Their sensors, previously infallible, struggled to detect the human ship, and reports from scouts were inconsistent and confusing. Commanders began to realize that this was not a normal enemy. This was something unpredictable, something far more advanced than they had anticipated. The human Dreadnought had anticipated such a response. Its AI systems analyzed the Empire's fleet movements instantly, predicting attack patterns and defensive strategies with terrifying accuracy. It moved with silent grace through space, appearing at multiple points in the formation almost simultaneously, striking where the Empire least expected. Each salvo was calculated to maximize damage while avoiding exposure to counterattacks. Imperial officers scrambled to coordinate their fleets, issuing repeated commands to concentrate fire, change formations, and launch countermeasures. But the Dreadnought adapted immediately, neutralizing their plans before they could be fully executed. The Empire's confidence began to crumble. Their overwhelming numbers and advanced weaponry meant little when their opponent could anticipate and counter every move. In battle rooms across command centers, advisors argued about tactics and strategies, yet every theory failed against the human ship's superior calculations. The Dreadnought's weapons recalibrated constantly, targeting weak points with precision, while its shields absorbed or deflected attacks that would have destroyed lesser vessels. Every attempt by the Empire to gain an advantage ended in frustration, as human technology proved faster, smarter, and more efficient. Pilots and crews in the Imperial fleets witnessed the Dreadnought's uncanny movements firsthand. Their attacks met with near-immediate counterattacks that left ships crippled or destroyed. Panic spread through the ranks as they realized that their training and experience were almost useless against this enemy. Officers who had once prided themselves on their tactical genius found themselves powerless, struggling to adapt to an adversary that seemed always one step ahead. Communications were jammed, sensors disrupted, and entire formations dismantled before they could even engage effectively. Meanwhile, humanity's Dreadnought advanced steadily, its presence alone creating chaos within the Empire's command structure. Each movement was deliberate, every action calculated to minimize risk while maximizing impact. Humans did not attack recklessly. Their strikes were focused, precise, and devastating. Unlike the Empire, which relied on brute force and intimidation, humans combined technology, strategy, and ingenuity, turning a single vessel into an unstoppable force. Imperial analysts struggled to understand how one ship could perform feats that seemed impossible. The Dreadnought's ability to anticipate every maneuver made it appear almost alive, as if it were a thinking entity rather than a machine controlled by humans. As the battle intensified, the Empire attempted to employ experimental weapons and secret technologies, hoping to gain an edge. Massive energy cannons, advanced fighter squadrons, and orbital bombardments were unleashed. Yet every move was met with swift counters from the human ship. Its shields adapted to new attack modes almost instantly. Its weapons targeted the most critical points with deadly precision. The Empire began to recognize that traditional methods of warfare were ineffective, that their strategies, built on centuries of dominance and predictable opponents, could be completely neutralized by a single, well-prepared human vessel. Fear and doubt spread beyond the battlefield, reaching governors, citizens, and leaders throughout the Empire. The Dreadnought's actions shattered their belief in invincibility, sending waves of panic through every level of command. Analysts who once dismissed humanity as extinct or insignificant now scrambled to study every fragment of data, trying to understand a threat they had underestimated for centuries. Even in secure command centers, no one could guarantee victory. And the Empire's confidence eroded as quickly as their fleets were being destroyed. The Dreadnought's appearance became more than a military threat. It was a psychological weapon, undermining the Empire's sense of control and superiority. Every strike, every evasive maneuver, every calculated pause reminded the Empire that humanity was no longer weak or forgotten. They had returned with power, strategy, and intelligence that challenged everything the Empire believed about its dominance. The battle ended not with a decisive victory, but with the Empire realizing that they faced an enemy unlike any other, one whose cunning, technology, and precision could not be defeated by numbers or arrogance alone. The Empire's leaders now understood that underestimating humanity had been their greatest mistake. The Dreadnought was not just a ship. It was a warning, a demonstration that the rules of galactic power had changed forever. Humanity's presence was no longer a rumor or myth. It was a calculated, unstoppable reality, and the Empire would have to rethink everything it knew about war, strategy, and survival. Humanity's Dreadnought moved silently through the galaxy, its mission precise and deliberate. It did not attack randomly or for glory. Every strike was planned to destabilize the Empire's structure and demonstrate human power. Its sensors scanned for critical targets, supply lines, communication hubs, military outposts, and starbases that maintained the Empire's control over its vast territory. The Dreadnought's intelligence systems analyzed the importance of each target, prioritizing those whose loss would create the most disruption. While the Empire scrambled to respond, humanity's ship struck quickly and decisively, leaving destruction in its wake. Every move was calculated to avoid unnecessary casualties, while still sending a clear message of dominance. The first strike targeted a remote supply station that fed several key Imperial fleets. The station's defenses were formidable by ordinary standards, yet they were no match for the Dreadnought's advanced weapons. Energy beams sliced through its shields, destroying storage facilities and critical infrastructure. Supplies meant for thousands of soldiers were vaporized in moments, sending shockwaves through the Empire's logistical network. News of the destruction spread rapidly, causing panic among commanders and administrators. They had never faced an enemy that could neutralize such important locations so efficiently. Next, the Dreadnought targeted communication hubs that connected distant star systems. These hubs were vital for coordinating fleets and maintaining control across the Empire. Within moments, the human ship disabled key relay stations, disrupting signals and creating confusion among Imperial forces. Orders sent to fleets were delayed or scrambled. Generals could no longer rely on timely communication to coordinate their attacks. The Empire, used to instantaneous control, found itself operating in darkness, unable to predict the human ship's next move. Small starbases, often considered minor threats, were no longer safe. The Dreadnought struck these outposts with precision, disabling defenses before any reinforcements could arrive. Each victory was clean and swift, leaving little opportunity for the Empire to regroup. Scientists and engineers at these facilities were left scrambling to understand how a single human vessel could achieve such feats. The human ship demonstrated the advantage of combining speed, stealth, and superior technology, making the Empire's massive fleets appear slow and clumsy in comparison. The Dreadnought's presence had psychological effects as well. Even systems that remained untouched by its attacks were filled with fear and uncertainty. Soldiers began to question their leadership, believing that no strategy could withstand the human assault. Officers hesitated to issue orders, doubting that their commands could survive the next strike. Morale plummeted across multiple fleets and installations. The Dreadnought's campaign was as much about proving human superiority as it was about physical destruction. Each calculated strike reinforced the idea that the Empire's power was no longer absolute. As the Dreadnought moved from sector to sector, its actions became unpredictable to Imperial observers. It appeared suddenly at distant targets, then vanished just as quickly, leaving devastation behind. The ship's ability to travel across vast distances without detection made the Empire's defensive networks seem almost useless. Fleets that attempted to intercept the Dreadnought were too slow, arriving only after the damage had been done. Human ingenuity and foresight had turned the element of surprise into an unstoppable weapon. The Empire began to realize that the Dreadnought was not just a ship, it was a symbol of human resurgence. Its every action sent a clear message. Humanity was back, powerful, and impossible to ignore. Strategic locations were not destroyed indiscriminately. The humans aimed to cripple the Empire's ability to respond effectively while minimizing unnecessary loss of life. This calculated approach made the Dreadnought even more terrifying, showing that humans were thinking ahead, not acting on impulse. Each victory forced the Empire to reconsider its assumptions about humans, whose extinction or irrelevance had been taken for granted for centuries. Every attack reinforced the Dreadnought's growing reputation. Stories of its efficiency and power spread rapidly across the Empire. Commanders spoke in hushed tones about the impossible technology and tactics. Citizens began to fear that their world was no longer secure, and the Empire's dominance was being challenged on a scale never seen before. Humanity's ship became more than a vessel. It became a statement, a living proof that the galaxy must acknowledge their return. As the Dreadnought completed another cycle of attacks, the Empire's military and political leaders realized that conventional tactics were failing. They had underestimated humanity, and the consequences were catastrophic. The human campaign demonstrated not just technological superiority, but also strategic patience. Each calculated strike built toward a larger plan, showing that the humans were not only surviving, they were reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy. The Empire's once unshakable confidence was replaced by fear and uncertainty, and humanity's message was clear: the galaxy would never again ignore them. The Galactic Empire refused to accept defeat. Their leaders poured every available resource into stopping the human Dreadnought. Elite strike teams were assembled, experimental weapons deployed, and specialized fleets sent to intercept the vessel. Every plan relied on the hope that overwhelming force or surprise tactics could finally overpower the human ship. Admirals gave orders with urgency, coordinating dozens of fleets in complex maneuvers, expecting that sheer numbers could finally tip the balance. Yet even as they moved, the Dreadnought anticipated their actions with uncanny precision. Its AI analyzed every signal, every fleet movement, every attempt at deception, calculating responses faster than any human or Imperial computer could. The Empire launched coordinated attacks from multiple directions, believing that dividing the Dreadnought's focus might create an opening. Massive energy cannons fired simultaneously from several capital ships, while fighter squadrons attempted to flank the human vessel. But the Dreadnought adapted instantly, repositioning shields, adjusting weapon output, and executing evasive maneuvers that left Imperial commanders bewildered. Each attack that should have caused significant damage was countered before it could land. The human ship's defensive systems were faster, smarter, and more resilient than anything the Empire had ever created. Its AI could anticipate patterns and calculate solutions almost instantly, turning every Imperial strike into a failed attempt. The elite strike teams, composed of the Empire's best pilots and officers, tried unconventional tactics, hoping creativity could outmatch raw computational power. They coordinated feints, misdirections, and simultaneous assaults, attempting to confuse the Dreadnought and exploit a perceived weakness. Yet every strategy was met with precise counters. The humans had prepared for unpredictability and had designed the ship to turn every attack into an opportunity. As fighters were destroyed in mid-flight and capital ships disabled before they could fire, Imperial officers began to understand that this was not just a powerful vessel, but a completely new type of threat. Communication networks became chaotic, with orders delayed, intercepted, or rendered ineffective. Imperial commanders found themselves unable to maintain coordination. Each fleet operated almost independently, yet the Dreadnought's intelligence was already aware of their positions and intentions. It struck where the Empire was most vulnerable, targeting weak points with surgical accuracy. By the time reinforcements arrived, they encountered a situation already out of control. Ships were crippled, crews demoralized, and the Empire's confidence shattered. The human ship demonstrated that technological superiority and strategic foresight could defeat numerical advantage. Imperial scientists and engineers analyzed every encounter, desperately trying to understand the Dreadnought's capabilities. Its adaptive shields, rapid weapon recalibration, and near instantaneous response times were beyond anything they had ever studied. Every attempt to develop countermeasures failed. Each experimental weapon deployed against it was neutralized or rendered ineffective. The humans had anticipated the Empire's most extreme responses, designing their systems to survive even the most unlikely and powerful attacks. The Dreadnought had not only prepared for conventional strategies, but for every known variation of Imperial tactics. Morale across the Empire plummeted. Soldiers began to doubt that victory was possible. Officers questioned their training and leadership, and administrators feared that critical systems might fall before they could react. Even in secure command centers, no one could offer certainty or reassurance. The Dreadnought was more than a ship. It was a symbol of human resilience and strategy. Each encounter reinforced that the Empire's dominance was not guaranteed, that centuries of unchallenged rule could be overturned by ingenuity, preparation, and technological mastery. Humanity's ship continued its campaign with calculated restraint. It did not destroy indiscriminately, but focused on weakening the Empire's ability to resist. Its actions were precise, efficient, and effective, turning chaos into opportunity while avoiding unnecessary loss. The Dreadnought's movements forced the Empire to rethink every assumption, to question every tactic, to reevaluate centuries of military doctrine. Nothing in their history had prepared them for an opponent capable of such foresight and adaptability. As fleets attempted to regroup, the Dreadnought struck again, its presence alone causing hesitation and confusion. Each maneuver reinforced the reality that the Empire was no longer unchallenged, that a single human ship could dictate the terms of battle across vast sectors of space. The Dreadnought became not only a weapon, but a lesson, showing that preparation, intelligence, and innovation could overcome overwhelming numbers. By the end of these engagements, the Empire faced a painful truth. Conventional power, arrogance, and experience could no longer secure victory. Humanity had returned, and the rules of galactic warfare had changed forever. Faced with the unstoppable human Dreadnought, the Galactic Empire was forced to confront a reality it had long ignored. Leaders who had once considered humanity extinct or insignificant now struggled to understand the scale of the threat. Entire fleets that were previously seen as invincible had been destroyed or scattered, leaving gaps across the Empire's defenses. Panic and uncertainty spread through the highest levels of command. The generals and admirals who had once been confident in their strategy now doubted every decision, questioning whether anything in their arsenal could match the human ship's power. The Dreadnought's calculated strikes had not only destroyed fleets and starbases, but they had also shattered the Empire's sense of invincibility. Every sector that reported encounters with the ship sent messages of fear and confusion. Leaders across the Empire realized that their once unquestioned dominance could no longer be taken for granted. Humanity's technology, strategy, and precision had revealed the Empire's vulnerabilities, forcing them to rethink centuries of assumptions. Even the most seasoned officers began to accept that this was not a temporary challenge, but a fundamental shift in power. As the Dreadnought moved methodically through the galaxy, it became clear that humanity's goal was not mindless destruction. Its attacks were precise and deliberate, striking at key locations and infrastructure to demonstrate strength without causing unnecessary chaos. Supply lines were disrupted, communication networks disabled, and starbases rendered inoperable, yet entire populations were largely spared. This strategic restraint revealed a calculated intelligence behind each action, showing that humanity had not returned for vengeance alone, but to reclaim a place in the galaxy. Its presence demanded recognition and respect, forcing the Empire to acknowledge that humans were no longer a forgotten species. Imperial leaders began to rethink their entire approach to warfare, realizing that brute force alone was insufficient. Every conventional tactic had been anticipated and countered, leaving them vulnerable to even the smallest misstep. Commanders debated new strategies, but each proposal seemed inadequate against a ship capable of analyzing and adapting faster than any human mind. The Empire's confidence eroded as they understood that technology, foresight, and adaptability had become more important than sheer numbers. Humanity had turned their survival into an art of strategy, leaving the Empire scrambling to catch up. Across multiple battlefronts, the Dreadnought's reputation grew. Stories of its capabilities spread quickly among fleets and star systems. Soldiers and officers alike began to recognize the reality. They were facing not just a ship, but a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. Morale shifted as fear replaced certainty. The Dreadnought had taught the galaxy a new lesson, that even a single vessel, when guided by superior knowledge and strategy, could challenge an empire. This understanding forced the Empire to respect humanity in a way it had never done before, a reluctant acknowledgement of a power that could no longer be ignored. Meanwhile, humanity's leaders monitored the Empire's responses, carefully observing every move and adjustment. They understood that fear was a powerful tool, and the Dreadnought's very presence disrupted the Empire's decision-making. Every strike was designed to reinforce this psychological advantage, demonstrating that humans had not only returned to the galaxy, but had also learned the value of precision, planning, and restraint. The Dreadnought had become a living lesson in strategic superiority, showing the Empire that their dominance was no longer guaranteed. Even as the Empire attempted to adapt, they realized that humanity's return had shifted the balance of power permanently. Fleets once considered invincible were now seen as vulnerable. Strategic positions that had been secure for centuries were now at risk. Leaders were forced to accept that survival and success would require more than tradition and arrogance. They would need to innovate, cooperate, and learn from an opponent who had mastered adaptability and intelligence. The Dreadnought's campaign highlighted the weakness of overconfidence, showing that past victories offered no protection against a prepared and calculated enemy. The Empire's turning point was not a single battle or decisive strike, but the recognition that humanity had returned to reclaim its place. The Dreadnought's actions forced the Empire to see humans not as primitive or extinct, but as a formidable force, capable of outmatching their most powerful fleets. Every interaction with the ship reinforced that a new era had begun, one in which technology, strategy, and intelligence mattered more than historical dominance. Humanity's return was no accident. It was deliberate, precise, and unstoppable, forcing the Empire to confront a reality it could no longer deny. As the Dreadnought continued its campaign, the Empire could only watch and respond, its leaders humbled, its fleets tested, and its confidence shaken. Humanity had demonstrated that it was no longer hidden or powerless. The galaxy was entering a new chapter, one defined by human ingenuity, strategy, and determination. The Empire, once unchallenged, now faced a rival that demanded respect and careful consideration. The Dreadnought had not only struck fear into their hearts, but had also reshaped the Empire's understanding of power, signaling that the rules of galactic dominance had forever changed. The human Dreadnought appeared in the Empire's capital system, like a shadow moving through light. Its presence alone caused alarms to ring across the planet and aboard every fleet stationed nearby. The Empire's leaders scrambled to assess the situation, their confidence shaken by the relentless campaign that had left so many fleets destroyed and starbases crippled. Every sensor reading confirmed what they had feared for months. Humanity had returned with power and precision beyond imagination. The Dreadnought did not move recklessly or attack indiscriminately. Its approach was calculated, deliberate, and undeniably commanding. Civilians watched from orbital stations and planetary cities as the massive vessel appeared in orbit, its dark hull reflecting the sun's light in a cold, imposing shine. Citizens who had lived under the illusion of imperial security now felt fear, awe, and confusion. The Dreadnought's presence disrupted communications, forcing military and civilian systems to operate under heightened alert. Emergency protocols were activated, and fleets were mobilized, yet none could match the ship's speed or precision. Even the most advanced Imperial battleships were forced to maneuver defensively, their captains uncertain of when or where the next strike might come. Humanity's leaders used the moment to send a clear message to the galaxy, broadcasting a transmission directly to the Empire's command networks. The message was not one of conquest or vengeance, but of warning and assertion. Humanity demanded recognition, reminding the Empire that it was no longer a forgotten race. The broadcast displayed the human Dreadnought, massive and unyielding, as the voice of its leaders spoke with calm authority, outlining their return, their strength, and their intent to reclaim a rightful place in the galaxy. Every word was chosen to impress both fear and respect, demonstrating that humans had evolved beyond what the Empire could have imagined. The Empire's generals and admirals were stunned into silence, their previous confidence shattered by months of relentless, precise strikes. They realized that human strategy was not chaotic or emotional, but calculated and intelligent. Every action had been designed to weaken the Empire without unnecessary destruction, leaving the impression that humans valued both power and responsibility. Citizens across the Empire whispered about the human threat, and fear spread as the Dreadnought remained visible, a silent reminder of the consequences of underestimating humanity. The Dreadnought's presence in the capital system also served a strategic purpose. Its orbit and movements demonstrated control over the immediate space without causing irreversible damage. This careful positioning allowed humanity to show strength while avoiding a full-scale planetary assault, proving that their return was meant to assert dominance rather than annihilate. Imperial scientists scrambled to understand the technology behind the ship. Its shields, weapons, and AI-driven systems were far beyond the Empire's comprehension. Every attempt to scan or interfere with the vessel failed, reinforcing humanity's technological superiority. Political leaders faced the grim reality that negotiation or compliance was now forced upon them by strength. The Empire could no longer ignore humanity's existence or dismiss it as a minor threat. Diplomats and officials were left with no choice but to consider the humans as equals or risk total destruction. Within the capital, debates raged. Some advocated for immediate counterattacks, but even the most aggressive officers understood the futility of confronting the Dreadnought directly. Humanity had demonstrated it could anticipate and neutralize every traditional strategy, forcing the Empire into cautious consideration. Throughout the system, the Dreadnought became a symbol, not merely a weapon, but a representation of human ingenuity, resilience, and foresight. Citizens and soldiers alike saw that centuries of imperial dominance were no guarantee of security, that even the most powerful fleets could be rendered ineffective by a combination of intelligence, strategy, and technology. Humanity had arrived not as a rumor or myth, but as a reality that demanded recognition, respect, and careful consideration in every decision the Empire made. The message sent by humanity reached far beyond the capital, spreading throughout the Empire's colonies, fleets, and systems. News of the Dreadnought and its appearance created waves of fear and respect, changing perceptions about humans from extinct or primitive to formidable and strategic. The galaxy had witnessed not just a single ship, but the return of a civilization that could no longer be ignored. Every leader, soldier, and citizen understood that the balance of power had shifted, and the Empire could not assume dominance without adapting. As the Dreadnought remained in the system, it sent a clear signal. Humanity had returned to reclaim its place in the galaxy. Its presence was both warning and invitation, demonstrating power while leaving the door open for negotiation. The Empire, humbled and shaken, faced a new era in which humans were a force to be respected and feared. The stage was set for the galaxy's future, and humanity had already proven that it would not be forgotten, underestimated, or defeated. Its return marked the beginning of a changed universe, where strategy, intelligence, and foresight ruled over arrogance and complacency.